So this will be our 32nd episode talking about the NBA season, which is a quick turnaround because it's, when you go on the internet, you can't even get past like the results of the last finals, and you already have predictions like a month later for who's going to be the new champ. So it's going to be weird because we just had basketball in October, and now we're already about to start the season in a week. So, but yeah, I think start off real quick. We'll just this being a pretty Philadelphia-based podcast, our thoughts on the Sixers. If you watched the game the other night, the preseason game, how does the new team look? How do we think they're going to finish? And then from that, we'll kind of roll into our top 8 teams in each conference, and then pick apart the playoffs from there. MVP, who we think we like, stuff like that. So, without further ado, Nick, as the guest, how did you enjoy the preseason game?
So I think the biggest question coming into the season for me was, what is it going to look like with the spacing? That was my biggest thing. The spacing with this team has been very poor for the past couple of years. Even the one year in 2017, 2018, where the spacing looked better, you had JJ Redick, you had Sarge who could stretch the floor at the 4. But it was still kind of Brett Brown running the helm. His offense would get stagnant. So I was interested to see what happened with Doc Rivers. And you bring in Steph Curry, who's a second all-time three-point percentage. Danny Green, career 40% three-point shooter. Allowing Tobias to play that stretch 4 where he's not forced to take threes, but he kind of gets to live in that 16 to 18-foot jumper range, which is much more his style. And I got to say, I liked the pacing, the spacing, the pacing. They were moving up tempo, but they were also running half-court sets, which was nice. It was the best second unit I've seen for the Sixers in a very long time. It was a second unit that I felt like you could put out there. They ran Shake, Furkan, Dwight, Mike Scott, and who's the last piece? And Matisse. And I think eventually you're going to see Tyrese Maxey move into that Furkan spot. Really loved what I saw out of him. And I think it's another Kentucky guard. I mean, how many Kentucky guard? They come in NBA ready. I mean, you can go down the list. John Wall, Eric Bledsoe came in ready, all defensive player. Devin Booker, Jamal Murray. Like, they just breed these guys ready for the league. And to get him where we got him, it felt like such a steal. When it happened, it felt shocking. That you could get a player like that.
I agree with you there. I love the Maxey pick. I loved it as soon as it happened. I mean, John, there's no college coach that understands the draft interview better than John Calipari. Hey, just another usual Kentucky guy drafted in the first round. Calipari, what's your thoughts? And he is the ultimate hype man. Like, he could convince me his ball boy should be a first round draft pick. He was all praised on Maxey. Compared him to I believe he compared him to Jamal Murray, actually, and saying he's perfect for this new age basketball. So, talking about him, I'm really excited. This team, the Sixers, listen, the roster's there. The roster's been there. I've always been extremely critical about Brett Brown. So, without him there, I am expecting a championship. I'm expecting them to compete heavy. You have your 2 superstars. I like the moves they made. I like the Seth Curry pick, as Nick talked about. I like the Danny Green pickup. Those are 2 shooters that you could use. And I love the Dwight Howard pickup. Look at what the Lakers did. They were bigger and badder and meaner than everyone else. And you saw it in the last 2 series the most. I thought that you looked at Jokic and Bam on the Heat and Nuggets being the only big guys that both those teams really had. And when you have McGee and Howard and LeBron and Davis rolling at you, like, they're just going to bully you and they're going to beat up your center until he just can't keep going. And you know what? The Embiid and Dwight Howard combination, let Dwight Howard do exactly what he did with the Lakers, and you're going to beat up some big guys. And Simmons can beat up some big guys down there too. I like the physicality they're bringing there. I know we just picked up 2 guys off the Lakers, but this team is reminding me of kind of the Lakers last year, and they won the championship. This is the team you should build yourself around. You got complementary scorers or shooters. I think Ben Simmons can play that LeBron role, especially the LeBron role he's playing now, where he's more of an assist guy. And you just need Embiid to be the force down low and a scoring presence that a Davis was. And you're looking at a team that compares very well with the team that just won the championship. So you got a championship level coach. I was a little critical about Doc Rivers this year, but I think he's on this revenge tour now. Now people are taking respect off his name. Like, you know what? Maybe he's not that good. Maybe he just won a title with the Big Three in Boston because the team was loaded. He hasn't done really much since then. The Clippers have been disappointments with him. I like that he's on this revenge tour, and I think listen, I'm optimistic. I've been begging for Brett Brown to be fired for 2 years now, so I got to be optimistic after they make the move that I wanted them to make.
Yeah, I was ecstatic when they signed Doc Rivers because it's like I said a couple times in some of our episodes. Like, there's very few times there's somebody you want your favorite team to go after, and they actually do it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want Doc Rivers. Like, as soon as I knew he was getting, parting ways with the Clippers, I was like, if they don't bring him in, I won't be happy with anything else because I didn't want some of the other options out there. And sure enough, they did it. And then, like Nick was saying, like, the moves they've been making are really smart. Their biggest problem was outside shooting. They got, definitely some solutions there with Green and Curry. And I also, like you guys both said, Maxey, I think we talked about it on the draft night, that could be the steal of the draft. Really like to see. And yeah, and I think by like the midway point of this season, or, in a couple months, like, we'll start to see him super involved and coming off the bench a lot more readily. And I have high hopes for them. I'm not getting too overhyped. I think at least in my like 8 teams that make the playoffs in the East, I think they're right where they should be. But yeah, I'm excited to see, because this is big for Joel. I think he needs to prove that he is, this big guy, this big scorer, this good defender that we know he is, and actually play to his capabilities. And I think it was Nick that said the other day, like, he's invested in his body. He's got a nutritionist and a trainer and all this, and he's finally taking it seriously. And I said to a friend of mine who's not a Sixers fan, and I was like, Joel Embiid, I think, played, it took him 7 years to finally get serious about his body, but I think he was cursed in a way because he was just so naturally talented, naturally gifted, that he never thought that was as important. He always thought his talent would get it done. And I think now he's looking across the league, seeing his rivals, seeing how everyone else is playing, and noticing, wow, maybe if I invest in my body more, maybe I don't have to miss some games, or maybe I don't have to come out in the fourth quarter because I'm gassed and I can't breathe, Yeah. Get that energy up, get that body set so he's not, huffing and puffing like we've seen him, and especially in the playoffs. And yeah, I'm excited. I'd like to see Ben take more shots. I don't know if that's more of a asking Santa for Christmas presents at this point, but
yeah, but you know what?
I like where they're going. They're in a positive direction.
I will say, listen, the personal shot, I don't know if it's like just, timing, but as soon as Doc Rivers comes in a couple months later, suddenly Joel Embiid's investing in his body, something we've been begging for years. Like, I think Doc Rivers has got he's one of the most respected coaches in the league, without a doubt. You hear players talk about him all the time, how much he's respected. And that's what I want to see. I want to see veteran guys that are championship pedigrees, like Green and Howard, want to play for a coach like Doc Rivers. And I want to see young guys that are really talented, like Embiid and Simmons, being held accountable. Take your next step. We should have been competing for a long time now. We've had the talented team, but it's never come through.
It's I think too, like, the combination of pieces they bring in. So obviously Danny Green, championship pedigree. I believe he won a state title in high school. I know he won a championship at UNC because I was a very big Tar Heel fan. And then he wins 3 NBA championships, one with the Spurs, but then back-to-back Toronto, LA. So the guy wins. Like, where he goes, wins. And that's no mistake that a contributing piece consistently – I mean, what happened yesterday in the first quarter? He caused 3 steals in the first quarter of yesterday's game. Like, that is a guy who knows how to win. That's a preseason game. He's going full speed. He's showing these things. Dwight Howard had this weird career. If you really follow it and you look at his kind of path to the Hall of Fame, started his career off kind of that big ego, Superman, dunk contest, 3 straight Defensive Player of the Year awards. He was just dominant. He was the rim. You didn't nowhere near the rim when Dwight was down there. Then he kind of tried that ego clash with Kobe, and then he kind of bounced around the league, had the whole
Maybe
5
with the Rockets,
5 years.
Magic, it's just been a disaster.
Yeah.
He's been a Hall of Fame player, but the last 5 years he's been a backup on like 4 different teams.
Yep. And it kind of like I don't know if it was his like because now he's really religious, and I don't know if that was later in the career, that was always a thing, but he then like wanted to go to LA and like make amends. And as a Laker fan last year, he was just like, what can I do for the team? What can I do for the team? And some games he didn't even play. And he was fine with that. Some games it was just JaVale. It was a better matchup, and AD at the 5. And he sat. There was playoff series last year where he did not play in. And he just wanted to be a part of that. And then Seth Curry, a guy who you can't tell me he doesn't have this big chip on his shoulder, always compared to this Curry. You know, he shoots 43% from 3, and we barely talk about him.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that until we actually got him and they mentioned it. I was like, that's sure. Like, I mean, we really didn't give up much to get him.
Gladly take that.
Josh Richardson was a complete disappointment in his time here. I don't know how to frame it otherwise. Like, he just was a disappointment. I'll touch on one more thing with the Maxey, just because I'm really hyped about him. You know what I love, and I see this more with like rookies, especially in the NBA because they're so young when they come in the league, is just be good at something. Be good at one thing. Get your foot in the door. Learn the ways of being an NBA, because these are 19-year-old, 20-year-old athletes. Like, just find something you're good at that can keep you on the floor and get your minutes, and you develop. I love that our last 2 first-round picks are completely opposite. I look at Maxey as more of a combo scorer, where Thybulle is just a lockdown defender. And I like that, because what's going to keep them on the floor, what's going to keep Maxey on the floor is his offensive prowess, and what's going to keep Thybulle on the floor is his defensive lockdown ability. And you know what? If they both improve their games, you're looking at 2 guys that could really develop into a high floor kind of player. You know, just to have something you're good at that can get you on the floor. And I like that they're 2 different players, and you're diversifying your roster. This is the same team that drafted like 4 centers in a row during the process here. So I like to see them try to diversify what they have.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty high on Thybulle. I like him a lot, and I think especially, I mean, I know the Sixers got swept by the Celtics in the playoffs, but I was watching him, you know, guard Jason Tatum like he had a gun held to his head. Like, he was all over him. He was. I remember the one he literally was on him like glue, and Jason Tatum's like, I'm still going to shoot this ball, and he drained it. And I was like, you can't even defend that any better. So yeah, and I like where he's going. And yeah, nice, like you said, Tim, Maxey's exciting.
Yeah, those pieces that we're talking about, like Tim, you make such a great point. Like, they're starters. I think the starting lineup, what they started yesterday, is going to be their starters, but I think they're going to end games differently depending on who they're playing. And that's situational. And that's kind of the way the NBA is trending. Like,
of course,
last year the Lakers ended so many games with Alex Caruso. Now, Caruso did start Game 6 of the NBA Finals, but he is the guy in the fourth quarter on that team who was, I don't need to take the shot, but he hit big shots when he needed to. He played lockdown defense, and he didn't make mistakes. And you're going to find guys, if they need the scoring punch, maybe Shake's on that night. Maybe Maxey's on that night. Maybe, you're playing the Clippers. You want Thybulle. You need another long guy to just guard another wing. And, like, having that versatility is just a luxury we haven't had. I mean, for the last couple of years, if it wasn't the starting 5, you were nervous. Like, you were nervous if it wasn't the starting 5. And now they have a team where there's 9-10 guys who can be on the court, and you can live with those combinations. And then to think that you have a coach like Doc Rivers, it just makes you excited. Like, it's hard not to be excited about that.
I love it. Listen, look at the team last year. Like, you're talking about your 4 highest paid players: Simmons, Harris, Embiid, Horford. Outside of Simmons, who plays point guard when he has a power forward's body, you could realistically say those are 4 either power forwards or centers. Like, that's their ideal position. And forever we've been doing this. We just draft guys that are big, the Okafors, the Noels, the Embiids, like the Saric even. And, like, they just kept drafting the same thing over and over and over again. Then you make the big signing for or you made the deal for Horford. You obviously brought in Harris. And, like, that's also 2 power forwards right there. Like, they played the same style. Like, outside of Josh Richardson, when have they actually gone out and, like, got an impact wing player or someone that you could say is actually going to be a starter the next year at the wing? And I know Maxey and Thybulle are young, but like I said, if you're a young guy, find something you can do well enough to get you on the floor. And I think Thybulle defensively has already earned himself any floor time he gets defensively. He's just a lockdown defender. Maxey, and he's a rookie. Maybe I'm a little high on him, but I think he offensively, what I saw in college, brings enough offensively to the table to earn minutes off of his offensive prowess alone. And I like that. Diversify your lineup up. Find stuff, because otherwise you're going to end up with a team full of big guys and no one that can shoot around them. And that was the Sixers last year. And I'm glad that they quickly realized that. Morey getting out of the Horford deal was amazing. Like, I knew that was going to cost you something to get him off the team, but it cost less than I was expecting. So I was blown away by that. I've been really excited by the moves. Obviously getting rid of Brett Brown was something that would have excited me regardless of what they wanted to do besides that. But I'm excited on this team. They're, we'll get to who we like in the East and the West, but I'll tell you right now, the Sixers are high up on that list for me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nick.
And I think too, Tim, first of all, I could not fathom the fact that Morey got rid of that Horford contract. That was one of that alone deserved Executive of the Year. That was Executive of the Year award given before the season started. That was unbelievable. Absolutely. And you know what? It wasn't even like, for me, the cost was so low because I thought for sure you were going to have to give up Horford and a player and something else to get back peanuts. You got back a starter. I never thought there'd be a combination without happening.
There you go. There's two guys.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, you knew that it was going to cost you a first-round pick to get Horford off the team. The fact that he got something else out of it, bravo. I'm impressed. I can see Danny Green playing meaningful minutes. I'm not giving up on Ferguson either. I think he improves your bench from what you had last year anyway.
It's another wing. Another wing. You need wings in the NBA.
One thing that slipped my mind when we brought in Doc too is somebody. It might have been you, Nick. Somebody reminded me like, oh, you remember who played for Doc Rivers on the Clippers before he came to the Sixers? Mm-hmm. Tobias Harris. Mm-hmm. And there was a reason they traded for him because he was playing really well for them. So if anyone's going to get him to play to his max, make his contract worthwhile, I think Tobias could be sneaky as a solid improvement on himself this year. So
wait, Dakota, actually, since you brought that up, that was a perfect point. So I do want to segue here because I was having this conversation earlier. Talking about, Tobias Harris, comparing him to the Lakers. And I said this about Tobias Harris. I think Tobias Harris gets too much pressure, too much criticism. Because don't get me wrong, I think if this guy's your third best player, you're winning a championship. If you look at the Lakers, outside of Anthony Davis or LeBron, I think Tobias Harris is better than everyone on that team, from the team that just won this championship. He gets paid a ton of money, but you know what? That's what you have to pay to get a third star. In the NBA, if you have 3 stars, they cost money. That's just how it is. You look at teams like the Miami Heat when LeBron was there, or the Warriors when Durant was there. They had 4 or 3 superstars, but besides that, the team was garbage. There was nothing behind them. And to get 3 top-level players, I think Tobias Harris is a perfectly fine number 3 on a championship team. It costs money. You're going to have to give him max deal. So going off that, and I think that the Sixers and Lakers can play pretty well, regardless of the fact that we got Green and Howard. What is our thoughts on the Lakers repeating? Because that's a team, I can't stop comparing the Lakers and Sixers. After the moves, like I said, with Tobias being the better third option than that, and I think Dwight Howard's going to play the same exact role he did with the Lakers, with the Sixers. I see this team very similar. I think the Sixers did a good job of looking at the team that just won the championship in a small ball era where this team went and got 4 big guys, and they just bullied people and had enough shooting around them to win. I think the Sixers are following that model, and I think it's a successful one. That's why I still take the Lakers as my defending champ. I think that Anthony Davis is going to have a hell of a year because I think LeBron needs to sit out a couple more games than he usually does on a short season. But I'm all on the Lakers and I'm all on the Sixers. It's probably my championship prediction, but I did want to hear our thoughts on whether the Lakers can actually back it up.
Well, again, as the resident Laker fan, I will.
It's like you have your moment. That's why I give you the whole introduction to let you have your moment there.
Who did call during the NBA pod that they were going to win? I think if you're them, you can't believe that you won and got better. Most teams, when you win a chip, everybody gets paid, they leave. That it's very hard to improve a roster that's won a championship. And I think the Dennis Schroeder pickup, the Montrezl Harrell out of left field.
Harrell pick was a very good pickup.
Nobody saw.
That takes from your enemy. That's still the next best.
Yeah,
team.
that was addition plus addition by subtraction, which was a double win. And I think, keeping Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who people were getting on him earlier in the career because he's a clutch client and they felt like his contracts were too large. And then you finally saw him at his 26, 27 coming into his own. I think he had the third most 3-pointers in the playoffs behind Kobe and like somebody else last year. Came in clutch. I think the Schroeder pickup was a lot to get LeBron off the ball. I think they're trying to get him to be able to play off the ball more. They love Rondo. Rondo was fantastic. Playoff Rondo is a real thing, man. He came through the clutch. It's amazing to watch. They don't win the
championship without him.
No, it was amazing to watch. And I was in Boston when he won it with the Big Three. So I've 12 years. I've been 13 years. I've been watching him in ball.
Yeah.
But I think the Schroeder pickup was a lot to get LeBron off the ball. I think he's going to go back to shooting more. I think you're going to see his points per game numbers going to go up. They dipped a little bit this year. He went from he's usually at 27. He went down to about 25. I think he's going to go back up to 27, 28. You're going to see him shoot more. You're going to see him. He's still going to run half-court sets, but not having to bring the ball up in the transition and do those other things is really going to help him with the mileage because I think they're going to soft core load manage him. So kind of do you remember – I heard somebody talking about this earlier. I really agree with it. You remember how the Golden State Warriors used to start every game with their starters, but they never played in the fourth quarter because they were winning by 30? I think they're going to soft core do that. And LeBron he'll start the fourth quarter on the bench. Not that they're going to be blowing teams out by that, but they're going to start the fourth quarter on the bench.
No, I see what you're saying.
He's going to say, Schroeder, go play the LeBron ball, feed the ball. And he'll come in for the last couple minutes of the fourth because he always gets that rest to start the fourth. And then he usually has to play the last 10. I think that last 10 is going to turn into more the last 6 or the last 7, but not dominant on him. I think Anthony Davis is going to really play a large role on this offense. They're going to feed him the ball like no other this year.
I will. Before I let Dakota talk, I don't. We'll get to it. I don't want to spoil anything, but when we get to our MVP discussions, I think that the boy that just got paid and the younger one out of him and LeBron who are defending their championship, I expect him to, straddle in and lead this team. I think they're going to rely on him a lot. So, but we'll get to that. But go ahead, Dakota.
Well, seeing as though my thunder was just stolen from both of you,
it always is.
I agree a lot with what Nick is saying. And I'll be one to admit I was very wrong about the Lakers. I thought, like I said in our original NBA podcast for the bubble when it restarted, that I thought the Lakers were kind of overrated and LeBron was just kind of him and AD, and I didn't really believe in the people they had around them, and they won a championship, proved that they were the best team in the league, and then they got better. So they're by far and away my favorites to win again, to repeat. But to kind of segue into the MVP talk, so like you guys were mentioning, LeBron said he doesn't really believe in this load management stuff like Kawhi does and whatever. And I agree, though, that because the Lakers got stronger, because they're going to, in my opinion, be not even a question to have the number 1 seed in the West, LeBron will see time where he sits in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And because of this, and because of how well, now that he's got a full, the full year, a full playoffs under his belt, I think Anthony Davis, even with LeBron on that team, is going to win MVP.
Yeah, I mean, my MVP pick is Anthony Davis as well. I mean, it's gonna. Okay. Well, this is gonna be a weird year. So
yeah.
And I know LeBron. I know LeBron takes his body very seriously. He drops whatever ridiculous millions of dollars that Joel Embiid is just realizing pro athletes have to spend on their body. Him over here getting fed by Chick-fil-A today surprisingly didn't work out well for him. So. I agree that LeBron's never been a load management guy, and I think the guy will be out there if he can. But this is going to be a weird year. I think it's going to be weirder than the bubble. The bubble was different. It was you were locked in, you had to play basketball, there was nothing else to do, and you knew why you were doing it. And it was in the middle of the season. So you're going to tell me that the Lakers or the Clippers, the teams that were doing really well, wanted to just forget the first 50 games they just played and didn't want to finish it? This is going to be a weirder season where, I think there's gonna be a lot more injuries. Your body's immediate turnaround, and I think, and we can get into this. This is, I know we made our points about what we want to get into. We talked about the playoff teams. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of these teams that didn't make it to the bubble are very competitive. Like, listen, that's a lot of time off. They might catch a couple of these teams that are, listen, LeBron played a lot of minutes. Jimmy Butler played a lot of minutes. They had to go through the bubble. Even Giannis, they were getting in shape to go to the bubble. Then they got to the bubble, and it was all basketball from there. You weren't doing anything else besides basketball. I loved, and you're wearing the jersey, so it works pretty well. I love the Warriors as a strong playoff contender going in the year. The Klay Thompson injury did kind of steer me off. But I honestly looked at, all right, you gave, 10-month break, whatever it's going to be, because they didn't go to the bubble, to Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. That team will be fine. I thought they were a real contender for a deep run. The Klay Thompson injury is brutal, but I still expect them to make the playoffs. I did want to ask you two, of the teams that didn't make the playoffs last year, who's making it this year? Because I think you're going to be surprised by teams that were really bad last year, that missed the bubble, that had all this extra time to heal when everyone else is a little banged up and just played a couple months ago. Who didn't make the playoffs last year that's making it this year?
I have three.
Okay.
I have three teams that did not make the playoffs last year that I anticipate making it this year.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you want me to get into that, or are we going to standing?
No, listen, let's go. I think we made the playoffs a point that we wanted to get to. Let's talk about the playoffs now, because I mean, listen, I feel like the West and the East, there's 6 teams that are the same 6 teams that made it last year are going to make it this year. I think there's going to be a couple surprise ones, and I want to hear the surprise picks.
So you can go through it and then jump back into MVP talks at the end. That's fine.
Yeah. Because then we can build up to our championship.
Yeah. So I think I think the 3 that slide in are the Washington Wizards. I think in the Eastern Conference you have 6 teams bunched. I think that's 6 teams of Miami, Boston, Philly, the Nets, Milwaukee, and Toronto are kind of like 6 teams. The order I've switched around a lot. Like, a lot depends on the way dominoes fall. But then after that, those next 7 and 8 slots, I think Washington has a lot of young pieces. I think Russell Westbrook's going to be on a little bit of a revenge tour this year. I think he got put into a terrible situation last year. I had heard he had some real desire to get out of Houston because of the James Harden treatment. They'd be waiting for film. James would be late. He's like, "Come on, let's play the tape." They've been buddies for a long time, but he's a consummate professional. Like Russell Westbrook, I think gets more grief than he deserves. Yes, his jump shot's a little bit janky, but the guy averaged 2 straight seasons of a triple-double. I think Bradley Beal is one of the best Robin number 2 players in the NBA. He's not a guy who should be your number 1, but I think he's other than the no, I won't say the best. I'm sorry, because I'm not going to go LeBron, AD. Like, he's not, but I think he's like.
No, I agree with exactly what you're
complimentary superstar.
Yeah. He's got a great complimentary game. He's a stud shooter and doesn't require the ball in his hands to be dominant.
Yeah, and they got young pieces: Hakamura, Thomas Bryant, Davis Bertans. I think that's a good team. The Phoenix Suns. I think Devin Booker goes over the edge with CP3 in the backcourt, partially from play, partially from the leadership. And I think Golden State gets back in. The Golden State Warriors are going back in, and I am going to make it's not really that bold, but my bold, semi-bold prediction is Steph Curry's going to win the scoring title this year. He's gonna win the scoring title, and he's gonna get MVP votes. He's not gonna win because the team is gonna be in the bottom half of the Western Conference, and you never win MVP without finishing top 2 in the conference.
Yeah.
But he is going to push. I mean, he had 29 points in 28 minutes yesterday. He's going to onslaught score.
So before I'll let Dakota hop in on this, but before I let that happen, I actually agree with you 100% on the Steph Curry scoring title, because it comes down to, scoring title is something you got to play every game for. Like, you got to be out there. You can't just cruise through and load manage. That's like LeBron made the best quote. He's like, if I wanted to win the scoring title every year, I absolutely could, and I absolutely believe that. But it takes, you need to be a dominant person. You need to play what James Harden's been playing, and just constantly have the ball, play as long as you can. He's racking up 40 minutes a game with the ball never leaving his hand. So I agree with that. The Warriors were one of the teams I think are a playoff team. I agree with you on the Warriors. The Wizards, I like the Wizards a lot. I also like the Timberwolves. I think the Russell, Karl-Anthony Towns mixture will be nice. Anthony Edwards, I don't know a ton about him besides he's a great athlete on a very average college team. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But I like the Russell and Cat combination, especially Cat. I think Cat is going to be in for, again, another guy that didn't play in the bubble, that had plenty of time off season to train and get healthy and get ready and is rested and ready to go. I think Cat will be a force this year. And the one team that you didn't mention who's a little outside, but I do kind of like them. I like the Charlotte Hornets this year as a playoff team. That 7 or 8 spot. I think they overpaid Gordon Hayward. I think we all agreed on that when it happened. But you know what? Gordon Hayward's still a quality player. Like, he's still talented. He can still make plays. I think when you talk about rookie impact, LaMelo Ball is easily going to make the biggest impact. He's been playing professional basketball for the first 2 or 3 years of his life. Like, professional basketball is not going to be anything new to him. Anthony Edwards, who played, substandard competition in the SEC in his 1 year or half a year at SEC, or James Wiseman, who didn't play any basketball, they might struggle a little bit. But LaMelo Ball's been playing professional basketball for the last 2 or 3 years. I think he comes in and shines immediately. I like Devontae Graham. I thought he had a very good year last year. He exceeded my expectations. I like Miles Bridges. I like Terry Rozier. Again, he falls in that Gordon Hayward category where he's so overpaid, but he's still talented. So I see them as a team that, again, is rested. They're young, and they got talent. I think they could sneak into that 7-8 speed. So I would agree with what you said, Nick. The only two I'd throw in there is the Timberwolves and the Hornets as my didn't make it last year, but make it this year kind of playoff teams.
I like that Hornets pick. I actually watched the preseason game the other day because I wanted to see LaMelo play.
I think he's gonna come out and be very good. Like, this guy's been playing pro ball for a while. This isn't new to him. The talent is different, but he's used to being a professional athlete. He's been a professional athlete since 14.
Yeah, some of his assists and what was unfortunate for him is the talent around him isn't great because he had some. Yeah. If you watch him play, he should have had double the amount of assists he had, but they were missed shots. But again, someone's going to play 7-8. I don't think that the Wizards are going to be like some world beaters, but a team's got to win. And the bottom of the East is bad. The Cavaliers, the Pistons, the Knicks.
That what invites you in there. I like even Vernon Carey. I believe it's his rookie year for the good dude from Duke. He's a big body, big physical presence. You talk about, the Lakers beating up people last year. He is a big body that beat up some people. But those are my teams. Dakota, you got any teams that we didn't mention that are making the playoffs, even though they didn't make them last year?
I believe I have 4 teams that I think make the playoffs.
Over here showing.
So, like Nick said, Warriors, I think, could sneak in 8th or 7th slot. I also really like the Wizards as the 8th seed. I don't think Bradley Beal necessarily had like a bad beef or a bad relationship with John Wall, but I think him being kind of freed from John Wall in a sense is good for him and good for the Wizards. I really like Hachimura coming out in the second year now, and the addition of Westbrook I think is going to be better than people think. I think Westbrook's. I think I saw he hasn't missed the playoffs in 7 years, so why start now? So I think they'll sneak in the playoffs. Another team that missed the playoffs in the bubble, the Hawks. I think they could be pretty sneaky good. I like John Collins, and I forget who it was. I think they got Clint Capella last year, and so I think they'll be that 7th, 8th slot. Like you guys were saying, the bottom of the East, the top 5, 6 teams are pretty set in stone, but you got like 5, 6 teams that could really compete for those last 2 spots. I feel like so.
No, and I agree
we'll see.
I agree with you. I actually think Nick hit it right on the head with the Bradley Beal comment about some guys are just better as Robins than they are Batmans. And that's nothing against them. Like, Bradley Beal is an incredible player. But I feel like his game is tailored to being a second star than it is the first star.
Yeah.
And the Wizards have been stuck with John Wall, who should be the first star, but you're paying him a ton of money and the guy's hurt and he hasn't played in 2 years. So what else are they supposed to do? They have nothing else to do. They can't get new players because they're still paying John Wall $1 bazillion. And that's who they thought their Batman was. So I think Russell Westbrook, who is a player who I think needs to be a Batman, like he just needs the ball in his hand, just like James Harden. I think he'll play pretty well with the Wizards. But, we'll see. I'm interested by this year because I think you're going to get a whole different I could see a lot of bad teams competing pretty hard. And the one I really like in the West that Nick mentioned, I wanted to say something about was Chris Paul has got his role. I think he can do the same exact thing what he did with the Thunder with the Suns. Put him as the veteran, basically a coach on the floor, and teach these young guys to win. Teach these young guys to fight through adversity, and teach these young guys what it takes to be a winner. And I think Chris Paul is the perfect player for that. And I think everyone can fairly say that Thunder exceeded all of our expectations last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do it exactly again this year with Chris Paul. Or the Suns do it this year in the same role as the Thunder with Chris Paul.
Yeah, I think everyone forget that, like, Chris Paul was the point guard. Like, Chris Paul was the reason that, like, that term got utilized. He has been just a fourth quarter dominant force, plays hard on defense, makes the right reads on offense. He's always been that guy. He just has always been a piece away. And I think that championship, I'm happy that he's not chasing the ring. He's later in his career. He's going for more mentor roles. He went to OKC as a mentor. He's going to Phoenix as a mentor. He's still contributing. He's still going to start for the team. He's still going to play in the fourth quarter. But he's not going to a team to be the backup point guard. He's not going to LA to be the backup and get a ring with LeBron. He's like, you know what? I still have juice. I still got time left.
Great
I think that –
Great role for him. You know what it reminds me of? Not to cut you off, but it reminds me of Derek Fisher. And to a better level. Like, Derek Fisher was never on the level of Chris Paul, but he's playing himself to a coaching career. Like, he's going to be looking at a head coaching job like a year or two after he's done. Like, what you're doing, he's coaching the Thunder, and he's going to be coaching the Suns on the floor. Like, he's teaching these young guys how to play. That was a young Thunder team, but he made Shai Gilgeous-Alexander look a lot better. There was some talent. Gallinari was there. Steven Adams was there. But he took these guys that I would say overexceeded last year compared to their careers. Like, he just brought out the best of them. And I think he's going to do the same thing with Ayton and Booker and that young team that the Suns have. And he's just playing himself to a coaching career.
Well, so to transition to that, I said I had 4 teams. And that fourth team that didn't make the playoffs, that will make the playoffs. So we can start off with our top 8 teams in the West. I think the Suns, like you guys have been saying, I think what they win, like, they were undefeated in the bubble, like trying to make that last playoff spot, like 8 games or 7 games.
Yeah.
But I really like how they're young and they're fiery. Not a pun on the Suns, but I think the Suns take that A spot over the Jazz. I think the Jazz miss out on the playoffs this year.
Okay, I don't know about
that. I'm pretty close. No, I'm not there, but I have them as the biggest regressor in the West.
But why? The Jazz are not a regressor in my mind.
I love Donovan Mitchell, but it's one of those feelings. I just don't think – I don't know. I don't think they're ready.
I don't know. Ascending young superstars, their team usually doesn't take a step back. I don't agree with that at all. I think the Jazz will actually improve. I thought the Jazz were a very good team that I believe they lost to the Nuggets, if I'm correct.
They lost a 3-1 lead.
3-1 lead to the Nuggets. Yeah, but listen, we didn't know what the Nuggets were going to do after that with the Clippers, and I think they were the most competitive series for the Lakers, arguably with the Heat. But I don't they got their pieces in place. You got your superstar, you got your defensive presence in Gobert. Mike Conley's still there. The Jazz, I still think, are a very, very solid team.
I don't know that Gobert is going to finish the season on the Jazz. He's going into a contract year. He's max eligible, and I don't think the Jazz want to give it to him. Plus, I still don't know that the internal locker room has actually gotten over him starting the COVID thing.
Rudy Gobert. Just make this known. I hate Rudy Gobert because I'm fully convinced that I had to go, 4 months without sports because Rudy Gobert. And there's no other way. I'm going to put this down to one person. If Rudy Gobert doesn't test positive, we eventually were figuring out what coronavirus was and we knew what we were doing. If they just started testing and doing what they're doing now in sports back then, I think we could have kept playing games. Rudy Gobert had to be the scumbag that went and touched every microphone and everyone said, oh, I don't care about COVID. It doesn't exist, blah, 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 blah. And then go gets it. Come on. And they just had to suspend the season because this jackass looked like an idiot in his presser the next morning.
Yeah, well, and the team said he did the same thing in the locker room. And then Donovan Mitchell got it. And, I also – here's the thing. Teams have a hard time not offering max contracts to guys who are eligible for it. Okay? Yeah. This is a lot of
money.
This is a GM thing. He's not – he had a great all-defensive year as it was transitioning out of his play style. It's weird. He caught the end of the traditional center, and it's kind of going away. And I don't think that they're going to give up $40 million to him. And he's tradable. There's value on the market.
Of course there is.
And there's 6 teams that I feel finish above them. There's 6 teams that I just like going into this year better than them. There's no other way for me to say it. There's 6 teams I feel better about. And I can't see them finishing, what did they finish last year? 3, I think, 4?
Sounds right around there. I don't remember exactly.
I can't see that again. I think that was a big overachievement.
See, the way I like that is though, but we talked about Tobias Harris. Like, I think Tobias Harris is a third player, top 3 player on a championship team. If you gave Rudy Gobert the same contract Tobias Harris is making, I think that's good value. He's the best defensive player arguably in the league. He fits so well with your superstar. That can't be ignored. I mean, if they hate each other because of the corona, that's a different thing. But play style, Donovan Mitchell is not a great defender, but Gobert takes away from it. He lets Donovan Mitchell play his game. Don't worry about defense because I'm going to take care of everything behind you. I think the fit is too good with what you have around the team to let him go. I'd be stunned. I think he's someone that – you're right. No, I agree with you. In a vacuum, he is not a max contract player. But you could say the same thing with Tobias Harris. In a vacuum, he's not a max contract player. But as the third player on a very good team, you have value. Like, I think you can win a championship with Tobias Harris as the third best player on your team. I think you can win a championship with Rudy Gobert, I guess, would be your second best player on your team, but he's easily one of the best defensive players in the league. And that's value that the Jazz need.
I forgot. He's super max eligible. He's not just max. He is because of his defensive player.
That's a different.
That was my point. Is he's super max eligible? And
I'm comparing him to Tobias Harris. He is not Giannis.
Yeah, and Tobias didn't get max. Tobias didn't get max. He got just under max. So
if you can get Gobert on a Tobias contract, that's a good deal for the Jazz.
Yeah, if you can do it, but the problem is, Tim, like when the guys are eligible for this, they don't take a penny less. Or they get moved.
Listen,
that's what they do.
I don't disagree with you. You're not wrong, and I don't blame them. But he's an incredible defender. Offensively, he's extremely limited. I can't give a supermax. Like when we talk supermax, we're talking about Giannis, who won an MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Like he's amazing on both sides of the ball. We're talking about LeBron or Anthony Davis, who are Defensive Player of the Year, MVP candidates every year. Like you got to be great on both sides of the ball, and Gobert's nowhere near that. But that is what it is. Dakota, if you had any thoughts, I know we put you in silence in there a little bit there, or we can move into our championship and MVP predictions.
No, so I'm just gonna run through my 8 seeds in the West, and then I'll let you guys either compare or just nitpick at it. So like I said, 8 I have the Suns. 7 I have the Warriors.
Okay.
6 I have the Blazers. 5 I have the Rockets. 4 I have the Nuggets.
Okay.
3 I have the Clippers. 2 I have my surprise streak team, the Mavs. I think Luka is going to be very, very high in the MVP discussion.
Okay.
And then number 1 I have the Lakers.
I actually don't mind your rankings. The Rockets one is stupid. James Harden hates being on the Rockets, and they have no talent besides him. So,
if he doesn't get traded, he's still in the Rockets. They're still finished.
The Rockets
they'll make playoffs.
James Harden needs to average 38 points per game just so the Rockets can be, a 6 or 7 seed. Like that team is really.
John Wall's there now. Maybe he'll do something. And they got
played in 2 years.
What's his name?
I'm not going to get excited for a guy who hasn't played in 2 years. Me and him.
Didn't Serge just sign with the Rockets? Or not Serge?
No.
What's his name? He was a teammate of John Wall in college.
DeMarcus Cousins.
DeMarcus Cousins, yeah.
You want another constantly injured superstar?
Hey, man, just saying.
I don't mind your list. Depending on the Mavericks with Porzingis, I don't think Luka's obviously a star. No question. Luka.
Yeah.
It's all about Porzingis at that point. Your Rockets pick is foolish. Like they are a James Harden trade away from tanking.
Yeah, but they're also James Harden with as a top playoff team. I think not top, but
I don't think so. But go ahead.
middle of the pack.
Nick, what'd you say?
They're gonna have to start the season with Harden. And I think
they're gonna trade him.
I don't. If it happens at the deadline. I think teams, because this is what I'll say. So many of the free agents from next year's class signed new contracts.
Yeah.
LeBron, AD, Giannis, PG, all these because if you're in the NBA, it's a star-driven league. You need to have 2 top 15 or one of the elite players, okay? And Harden, as much as I dislike him individually, is an elite player. He's averaged over 30 for 4 straight seasons.
Yep.
So there's going to be a team that's going to package it. I know I've said it before. I think most likely, I think it's Boston. That's what I think. It's going to be the most likely. They have the most assets, and I think they're a team who feels jumbled in a 5 or 6 who needs one to get over. They need one more piece to get over. So I don't know if Danny Ainge doesn't make this trade. I don't know why he's been collecting all this assets. He passed on PG. He passed on Jimmy Butler. There's no other top 10 players.
They had the Anthony Davis option too.
There's no other top 10 players coming onto the market. Okay, I think he gets moved because I think teams get desperate as the season goes along. They're looking at how do we get better. We can't do it internally. There's not people in the market, in free agency next year. But I think Harden is going to have to show enough early on for teams to feel comfortable giving it up. So I think he's going to go on a tear. I think he's going to shoot the ball 30 times a game to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, that team, the team is not good. They built this whole team around James Harden. And if you don't have James Harden, that roster is terrible. You don't have any big guys. All you have is shooters. And if you take away a ball-dominant 40 points per game score, that team sucks. And, those 40 points per game scores don't grow on trees. So if you don't have James Harden, the Rockets are going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA.
I mean, it's the same team that they go in every year, except they just flipped Westbrook for John Wall. So if Harden stays on that team, I think they'll be in the playoffs. If not, I agree. I think they'll fall out.
I need to see John Wall to do something before I jump on. He hasn't played in 2 years.
He's had 2 years to get ready.
2 years to get ready. He was rehabbing. He was learning how to walk in 2 years. Let alone being an NBA superstar, he was learning how to walk.
This is why it's my ranking, not yours.
I think they'll do enough. I think they slide into 7. And I actually lied. I don't even have Utah in the playoffs. I lied to you. I don't even have Utah in the playoffs.
There you go.
I don't understand Dakota, I actually can't even look at you with a straight face. You telling me the Rockets are going to be the 5th seed, but the Jazz aren't making the playoffs. What? Did you say that out loud before you wrote that down? That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. I penciled that in very confidently.
Oh my God! All right,
Nick, do you have an 8 teams?
I didn't. If Nick has it, I didn't come off the top of my head. I mean, I could tell you off the top of my head, both LA teams are gonna be there. The Denver will be there. The Jazz are gonna be there. I don't know what you two are smoking, but the Jazz will be there. The Dallas will be there. The Warriors will be there. Those are my 6. I like the Suns taking the Thunder spot. And
I don't think the Thunder are gonna be that good.
No, the Thunder won't be the good. I don't think the Rockets will be that good. And the Rockets out of the playoffs, I'm going to replace them with the Suns, the Warriors. I can live with that. With the Timberwolves being my my sneaky 8 to 9 kind of flex seed.
I don't like the Timberwolves at all. I mean, I'm just gonna say it.
I think they battle for the 8 spot. I don't know. I don't like them individually.
Eventually, they're going to put all this young talent together. Eventually.
Maybe. I don't know that they care about winning that much. I think Karl Anthony Towns is happy to get his big deals and put up his good numbers. And I think
he's playing with his best friend now. So, win with your best friend. Right?
Again, I think it's more fun than business.
Listen, I wouldn't argue on that one. I would not argue there on that one. I could believe that. But unless we had any final thoughts, I did want to get our thoughts. We talked about it a little bit. But obviously, before we get into our championship and MVP predictions, the Harden trade, which we talked about, we gotta address the rumors to Brooklyn, because I'll tell you one thing about the Brooklyn rumors with James Harden, and I fully believe that all superstars control your teams, especially when you're the superstar that came in as a free agent and got your head coach fired that you didn't even play with. I'm talking about the Nets. If Kevin Durant thinks, you know what, and I know he loves Kyrie Irving for some reason. The guy's a nutcase. If you look at all this nonsense that this guy's causing, think, in a year we're not even having an offseason, he said, you know what, I don't look at Steve Nash as the head coach that I went and him and Kevin Durant got Kenny Atkinson fired and then brought in Steve Nash, and Kyrie Irving doesn't look at him as a head coach. Interesting. But then, now he's starting to argue with the media. Like, he's been doing this stuff all of his career. If Kevin Durant approves this and lets this go through, if I'm the Nets, I'd happily trade Kyrie Irving for James Harden easily. I mean, Kyrie Irving will throw a fit. That might hurt you when you try to sign different superstar free agents, but Kevin Durant is that franchise. He's much better than Kyrie Irving is, and he's not nearly the headache that Kyrie Irving is, even coming off that injury. I think a team with Kevin Durant and James Harden is a hell of a lot better than Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. And James Harden has spent his entire career with Mike D'Antoni, who is a Mike D'Antoni disciple. That is Steve Nash. I think they're going to play a similar offense that'll fit both of them really well. But really it comes down to, man, like, I know Durant likes Irving, but the guy keeps causing headaches. I don't think he's going to stop causing headaches. I'd rather just go get Harden. He wants to play with you. You were teammates together. I think they fit better. That's the only team I can realistically see going after Harden. And the only way I see that trade happening is you got to give him Irving.
I don't think KD signs off on it. I think KD wants this to work with Kyrie, because here's the thing.
I agree with you there. No, I agree with you there.
Because here's the thing I think you're not considering. He left a dynasty opportunity to go prove that he could be the guy. If he wins in Brooklyn, it's going to be KD's team assisted by Kyrie. If Harden goes there, it's going to be Harden and KD. And he does not want that.
I don't agree with you there. I think if Harden comes into that team, it's still KD's team.
He's not a tier two.
Harden has too big of an ego now.
He's not a tier two star. It'll be the same issue that Durant had in Oklahoma City when Russell kept taking fourth quarter shots. Okay, Kyrie is a Robin. Okay, Kyrie is a Robin.
I agree with you there.
James Harden's not a Robin. He's a Batman. You can't. KD needs this to win without another guy in his bracket. Okay, it needs to be his championship. He can't have Harden on that team. That kills the entire. Because then why did you leave Golden State? He could have won 6 more with Steph Curry. Why did you? But he didn't want it to be Steph's team and me and Steph. He wanted to be my championship. He'll get my championship with Kyrie, averaging 20, 22 points. But if Harden comes in and averages 28, 30, it's going to be like AD and LeBron, and he does not want that.
I mean, good point. I agree. I totally understand what you're saying. And when we talk about Batmans and Robins, I always look at Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant as 2 Robins with the talent to become Batmans. But there's something's not – Kyrie's case, he just can't get along with his teammates. He demanded a trade away from LeBron to go to the Celtics, and his whole locker room hated him when he played Batman. Kevin Durant he opted into a perfect situation where he was never going to be Batman because there was already a Batman there. Like, you were never going to take over Steph Curry's mantle because he was there, built the whole damn thing. Steph Curry built that team. LeBron built the Cavs. They were nothing until he got there. Kevin Durant, this is what I say, even if he brings in Harden to his team, because Kevin Durant brought in Kyrie Irving, who then became your trade bait to get James Harden. Up until Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant signed with the Nets, they were a nothing franchise. And listen, you can give both of them credit because they signed together and they're packed. But if you get rid of one of them, you got to go back to who came first. And I think without Kevin Durant, you never get a player of Kyrie Irving's talent. Or without Kevin Durant, you never get a player of James Harden's talent to want to go to the Nets. James Harden never wanted to go to the Nets until Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were there. Now he's only demanding to go there. And he's going to strip clubs, hanging out with little baby, and doing his thing until he gets there. But I think that's all on Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the pillar you build on. So I agree. I agree, and I know exactly what you're saying, but I still think, and I agree, James Harden is a Batman. If you build the foundation that gets James Harden there, it's your team. Steph Curry built the foundation to bring Kevin Durant there. Was Kevin Durant better than Steph Curry? You can make that argument. But who built the foundation to get a Kevin Durant to that team? That's the way I look at it. But I'll leave it at that. Dakota, give us your thoughts on the Harden to the possible Nets trade, and then we'll get to the championship MVP predictions.
I agree with Nick. I just don't see, even if that was the scenario that they got Kyrie for Harden or whatever it may be, just because you put two really good players next to each other doesn't mean they're gonna both play to their potential. Harden, how many shots does he take a game? Like, I know Durant's, what's his social media tag? He's like easy money sniper or something, because he hits his shots. He doesn't need to take 50 shots a game, but I just don't see them coexisting again on a team together. And I think, like Nick said, it's better for him to have a Robin than two Batmans. So I don't. That's the thing with Harden, though. I don't see a team blowing away Houston with a deal, because I don't think the Sixers really want to give up Ben Simmons or Embiid, and I don't think the Nets would want to give up Kyrie. I think they like what they have there.
It'll take Jason Tatum, and I don't see them giving him that up. Danny Ainge hasn't given
No, I
him up
don't.
for all the teams.
No, Jason Tatum's not going anywhere.
Listen, you could have got Paul George, Anthony Davis, whoever, all the people Nick mentioned, if you just gave Jason Tatum. I don't see them doing that. I just see Jason Tatum being a Celtic for as long as he wants to be there.
I think Jason Tatum will get better too.
Yeah,
I think he's going to keep getting better.
That's why I look at it as the Sixers and the Nets. They're the only teams with superstars that the Rockets want, because the Rockets probably realized without James Harden, we are a bottom 5 team. That team sucks without James Harden. It's built around James Harden. If you don't have James Harden, this team sucks.
Well, that's a good point. That means that they need talent to come back in that can help them not suck, that can help them be a starting insert as a starter and keep them in the playoffs. But I don't think teams want to give them that. So
I agree.
It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I don't think Harden's going to get traded. That's why I had the Rockets in the playoffs. But we'll see how it unfolds.
He makes too much money to sit out. Like that's
yeah.
Oh, he'll go out there. He'll go out there and play.
He's gonna go out. He's gonna take his shots. And I think, and here's the thing with the Celtics that I talked to Dakota about this before. I don't think it's gonna take Jason Tatum, because I don't think any team is gonna offer them the level of Tatum. Okay, I think Harden of a headache is not something you're gonna give up. Now I could see Jaylen Brown, multiple draft picks, because they have a ton that they've acquired over the years. They have the largest trade exception in NBA history at $29 million. So they can send Jaylen Brown to a third team. A third team could send players there, and Celtics would send their picks there. And that would get James Harden to Boston. And they are a team, and growing up in Boston, no organizations pull off better accumulate, deploy better than New England teams. They'll find a way to make it happen, because the season's going to start. They're going to be in battles. They're going to say, wow, Jason Tatum developed much faster than we anticipated. He just grew to 6'10". He's an absolute assassin. You know what? Let's go put a perennial all-star in the backcourt, and then just good luck. They'd instantly become the favorites in the East. They would. For me, the depth, I like the Nets, but here's the thing for me. I think chemistry is going to be an issue all year. I think Steve Nash is going to have a hard time getting that locker room. I think the role players are not going to like the roles that are given to them by Kyrie and KD. I think Dinwiddie's going to get sick of it. I think Karis LeVert's going to get sick of it. I think Jared Allen's going to get sick of it. And I think it's going to be toxic. And I just see the Celtics saying, you know what? Let's just go. Let's go out. Let's do it. Like, let's put it on the table. We're going to get – it's going to be a little bit – it's never going to be equal talent going back. They're not going to get Tatum, because James Harden's 30. He's not 25. He's not 26. And, I mean, now look at the reports coming out. They had to stay an extra day in cities that he liked so he could go out and party. And then, if they played in L.A. or Phoenix, they had to stay. The team wouldn't travel so that he could go to the club. Or on off days, he's private chartering to Vegas. Teams are going to look at that and go, dude, we're not doing that. So they'll say, I'll give up Jaylen Brown and picks, but you're not getting back a Tatum, a Kyrie, a Ben Simmons. Those are pipe dreams. That is not reality at all.
I agree with you there. And like I said, I've never seen a team cater to one superstar more than the Rockets did to James Harden. You got his coach. You fully went in the philosophy. You got rid of all your big guys. You got shooters. You did everything for James Harden. I'll leave this on the last note, unless you guys have anything else to say. But The way I look at it is either it's Tatum, Simmons, or Irving. One of those teams have to give up one of those players to get James Harden. Because the thing with James Harden, and you can compare this to Anthony Davis because he's the last superstar to demand a trade with 2 years left on his deal. Anthony Davis had a team in the Lakers that were, one, willing to give up the young assets that it took to get a superstar of Anthony Davis's talent. And two, Anthony Davis wanted to go there. So while, when Anthony Davis made the trade request and the deadline went on, he ended up playing the rest of the year. And, then at the end of the season, he had the "that's all folks" shirt. And we all knew it was coming to an end. But the Pelicans said, you know what? No, we're not giving you up just because you want to leave. Like, that's not going to happen. We're going to hold out and we're going to get the best deal. And the Lakers ultimately were always going to be the team that got Anthony Davis. And they ultimately were always the team that had the best trade package for Anthony Davis. And with the Harden, I just don't see that. I look at 3 teams that he would actually want to go to and 3 teams that actually have the superstar, pedigree talent that Houston would want to give up James Harden, who they built their entire franchise around and would be screwed without. And I just see them finishing out the year. I don't see the Rockets bending. They seem pretty adamant that they're not going to trade him. Maybe the John Wall things works out, but I don't see him getting traded. I don't see any of those 3 teams giving up those 3 superstars. The only one that I would consider, because in the Celtics, I'm not giving up Tatum. And the Sixers, I'm begging they don't give up Simmons because I want Doc Rivers at a chance with Embiid and Simmons. If I'm the Nets, you mentioned this earlier, Nick, and I couldn't agree with you more. They have a talented team before the superstars got there. Dinwiddie, LeVert, what's the dude? Josh Allen. Like, they had talent there. And who just doesn't get along in the locker room? Kyrie Irving went to a very talented young team in Celtics, and the team didn't get along with him. And is he going to kill your chemistry with all your other players? I don't think Durant will. Durant's a very soft-spoken guy. He's gotten along with many superstars. He had many good players he played with the Thunder. He came into a situation with the Warriors where I'm the best player on the team, but I'm taking second fiddle. I think he'd get along fine. I think Irving's the problem. If you can bring in Harden, I would trade Irving. I don't know if we talked about this. I don't know if Durant's going to sign off on that. Him and Irving seem pretty close as friends. So I don't know, but that's the one I would look at as the deal to make. But that's final thoughts. I don't know if you guys have anything else before we get into the predictions, because I got to go check in on Nova. I rode that 12.5 spread, so I need to see if I win something back. Because Dan Bailey, as we all know, fucked me on my NFL picks.
Good old Dan Bailey. No, I'll go right into so speaking of the Celtics, I'll just go right into my East 8 playoff teams, and then we'll transition into who we think is going to win and like finals matchup. But like I said, I think Wizards sneak in with that ace seed. I like Bradley Beal to kind of explode, and I think Westbrook's. I mean, to say he's got a chip on his shoulder after being traded back-to-back off seasons, sure, but he wants to play. He's a competitor, so he'll find his way into the playoffs again. Number 7, like I said, I do really think the Hawks are a nice young surprise team. And then at 6, this is where I kind of have that. We have those 6 teams in the East that are the clear playoff teams. I think at 6 we see some fallback of the Raptors. I think they were able to sustain last year without Kawhi, and now I think you're going to start to see them deteriorate a little bit, and they'll still make playoffs, but I don't think they'll be as strong.
You lost Gasol.
Number 5.
So that's a lot of talent you lost.
Yeah, they lost Serge, which was pretty surprising.
And Gasol.
Yeah, and Gasol. 5, I had the Nets, and the reason I have them at here is a lot what Nick was saying, is I think continuity might be an issue, and I think based on Kyrie's up and down injury history, I think he's going to end up sitting a couple of games with his. They'll focus on some load management with him maybe, and Durant too, because he hasn't played a full season in like a whole year. So, I think 5 or 4, but I'm leaning towards 5 for them. And then at 4, I do have the Sixers. They could be better, they could be worse, but I think in the middle is good for them. 3, I have the Heat. They were the surprise team last year. I didn't see this coming. Nick did. Of course, he picked them in the finals. But, I mean, it hurt me to see Jimmy leave the Sixers because I was a Jimmy fan. But I think he's doing good stuff in the Heat, and that's his ideal role, what he's doing right now. So they'll be good. Celtics at 2. They get stronger every year somehow. They always have good drafts. Like I said, Nick said Tatum grew another inch or whatever, and
inches.
I haven't grown an inch since middle school, so I don't know what's going on with that. But Celtics are strong too, and then the Bucks will be the number 1 seed every year in the regular season. Playoffs are a different thing, but I think they'll be number 1 again.
So, all right, give us your championship prediction and MVP. We'll end on that. We'll go around the table. What's your championship prediction and MVP?
Championship, I would say Lakers, Celtics.
Okay.
Lakers in 6. And Anthony Davis is my MVP with Luka and Curry as runner-up.
Okay. I like those picks a lot, actually. I like the Curry love because I'm a big Warrior. The Klay Thompson injury is so brutal because you would have talked about championship favorites. I would have doubled down on the Warriors. I really like them a lot. Championship prediction. We already talked a lot about it. I won't get too much into it, but I'm going Lakers. I like their team. I like who they brought in. I like who they're bringing back. And you know what? Call me a homer. Fine. But I mentioned many times, we're built like the Lakers were last year. We're getting to a big man kind of league nowadays. I'm saying the Sixers versus Lakers. I don't know if the Sixers going to be able to pull it off, but give me the Lakers over the Sixers in the finals. And then we already mentioned, I think LeBron's going to have to load manage a little bit. No 36-year-old body's going to be able to take that turnaround. So I'm going to get Anthony Davis the MVP with Luka coming in second. But I think Anthony Davis is going to play a huge role to make up for the LeBron load management. But
so I said this when we did the NBA pod, and I still stick by it, that the Milwaukee Bucks were going to have the biggest drop back in the East. Good. I'm happy good for them for locking up Giannis. I'm happy for them.
Huge.
I'm happy that a small market team kept a big fish. You know, I'm happy that a kid who grew up as poor as he did, as an immigrant in Greece, with fear of even saying he was an immigrant, just signed a $250 million salary. So for that, I'm happy for Milwaukee, and I'm happy for Giannis.
Absolutely.
However, they were number 8 in bench scoring in the NBA last year, and they just let Kyle Korver, Ersan Ilyasova, and who's the third piece? And George Hill, who shot out of his mind from 3 last year, walk. And now they're going to be starting Dante DiVincenzo in their starting lineup, not at Villanova, for the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay? He's going to be a starter for them, and their bench scoring is going to be Bobby Portis and DJ Augustine. And I'm sorry. Giannis can average 30. That is not a team that makes me nervous at all. I think that in the East, I like the Nets better just because I think having a talent like Durant will win you enough games. So I slide them in 4 just above them. I think Philly stays at 3. I think they're going to have a great season. I like him at 3. I like Boston at 2. And I think Miami keeps the run going. I don't know, at 1 for the regular season. I don't see them making the finals again. But I think the regular season, I think they're going to come into the year gelled. They had a lot of young shooters.
They are a young team.
That I think getting that experience, guys like that, I think Tyler Hero year 2, Duncan Robinson, the confidence he just got. I mean, he was a Division II college player. And look at the swag that he's got now. Jimmy is star hunting this offseason, okay? He needs to go out and prove that they are a location. Bam Adebayo just got paid. I think they come out absolutely firing. They take over the 1 seed. But I will go with Dakota's Boston-LA finals. I think we get a classic.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a Boston-LA. And I think it's going to go 7 games. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth tilt. I think Jason Tatum is going to take a monster step up this year. I think he's going to be second team All-NBA, second or third team. I think he's going to be a fantastic, easy top 10, 15 player in the NBA. I think Luka is going to win the MVP this year. I think he's young. I think he's a guy who stuffs the stat sheet. He gets points, he gets rebounds, he gets assists. I'm expecting them to be big. And I think Anthony Davis goes runner-up MVP. I think the Lakers are really, really going to feature him this year. And I think that LeBron is kind of in the process of passing the torch. He still got the gas in there, but I think bringing in Schroeder was a little bit of the sign of him being like, get the ball out of my hands.
I agree with you.
Let me play off the ball. Let me get my minutes down. I'll start every game. Now, he'll start every game. I don't think he's going to sit out games. He's not that type of guy because he knows the blowback he'll get for it. You know, so
absolutely. Well, with LeBron, the load management is not a LeBron thing.
No.
This is good. They're gonna force him to sit down. Like, you just because you can't afford this guy. Like, you're talking about unprecedented. This guy won a championship in October, and he's gonna be starting the season in December. You're right about the Schroeder. He was the number one point guard last year, and you needed a guy that can blow those minutes with LeBron. So I agree with you. No, I like what you're saying. So
and I think Curry comes. I think he's in the conversation for most of the season. I think he kind of finishes probably closer than third in the actual voting. People are starting to talk about Dame Lillard being the best point guard. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Dame Lillard fan. I'm a big Dame fan. But he is not Steph Curry. Okay? Steph Curry is the all-time best shooter to ever touch a basketball.
I think he's going to remind you how good he is again.
He's coming back this year. And I really wish Clay – I mean, Clay is one of my all-time – when the Lakers, by the way, were kind of in that, like, looking for a second star – there was no better second piece than Klay Thompson to play with LeBron James. Oh, no. He's the most complimentary. And it's even hard to call him a Robin because I think that if he didn't play in Golden State, I think if he played in a Boston, a Miami, a Philly, I think he would average 30 a game. And I think he would be a freak. Now, he is, as Steve Kerr called, no maintenance. He's not low maintenance. The guy just likes to play hoops, hang out with his dog, and just that's just the type of guy he is. And I feel so bad for him that he had that injury, you know, and especially that it happened on a dunk that he usually lays up. Like, I've watched that play so many times, and he's not a two-hand jammer. Like, he's a guy who would lay that up, and the fact that the one time he chose to dunk, he landed awkwardly, just felt like a weird twist of fate. Like, what was the reason that time he went up with two hands? Like, that is – it's unfortunate, but I think Steph is going to come back out, and that's why I rock the Curry, the town jersey. I think he's going to put the town back on his back this year, and I think that he's just going to unleash. You're going to see him on Sports Center a lot. You might as well just call him up, be like, Steph, dun-na-na, Curry, because that is what he's going to do all year.
I love it. Well, hey. This is a good preview. You got me hyped up. I haven't even been thinking about the NBA with, full into the NFL schedule now. So it's got me hyped up and put me in the mindset for the NBA. So I'm excited. We're, 6 days away from the start of the season?
Yeah, next Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
But
I like that MVP though, because the only other two I kind of just threw in my top five. Giannis just as a name, but the last time a player won 3 in a row was Larry Bird, so I don't see Giannis winning a third straight. And then Kevin Durant is always a possibility when he's healthy and playing. So
I like that pick, especially if he brings Brooklyn to prominence. But good episode though. I thought good talks. Could be had.
Yeah, I think it wrapped up pretty clearly. I think we all believe the Lakers are the best team in the league going into it, and even though they played the most games, in the bubble and such. But yeah, I think it'll be a exciting year. I think it's funny how, just to end it on, we started COVID with no sports, and now I feel like there's just almost too much sports going on. It's just so much going on. It's hard to keep up, but I love it. I would rather there be too much sports to take in than no sports at all. So
absolutely. I've watched more than enough replay sports games in my life this year than I ever want to do ever again. So I'm fine with that. All right. Well.
All right. Tim, Nick, any final thoughts? Or are you good?
Just as a 1/100,000th of a funder of the Sixers bench players roster spot as a season ticket holder, I am.
Say, where the hell are you going with this?
Very.
I don't want to do math right now.
Did they do a GoFundMe for Tobias Harris's?
Yeah. My season tickets pay for the socks that they give the team.
Hey, you know what? Socks are important. There's no player who's ever won a championship without wearing socks, so that's very important.
Especially in the snow now, they got to walk through the snow.
Even better, yeah.
Yeah, but very, very, very excited. I haven't been this excited for entering a year for a Philly sports team. Obviously, it was fun watching the Eagles go on their run, but entering a season, I haven't been this excited since I've moved to the Philadelphia area. So, very, very excited.
I'll talk to you.
All right, peace out, guys.